teach this session somehow in the same crazy Lisbon blockchain week.
Yeah.
So things are pretty wild here.
Thanks for coming. And yeah, for the people who don't know Lowie, she's someone who has a lot of experience in the DAO space, and also she's someone who also has experience managing conflict in DAOs. So yeah, it's great to have her here, and yeah, she will be leading this session. So yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks Lowie for her participation. If many people jump into the call, we might need to take out the camera, but until that moment, we will be with the camera open.
Cool. Well, I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Are you guys able to see this?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah? Conflict resolution? Okay, cool. So welcome to those of you who are pinging in just now. Yeah, I'm Lowie, and I have been really interested in conflict resolution since I was a teenager, really. And back when I was about 19, I got involved with a restorative justice group in Seattle. And actually was able to help found the first restorative justice organization in my city, where we took cases of young adults out of the criminal justice system and offered them to divert into this process that's essentially more like a healing talking circle. And that was super valuable experience for me. And ever since I started studying and working with them in my community, I became known as a conflict resolution person. And my community called upon me in some pretty intense ways to draft up accountability processes. And I ended up traveling up and down the West Coast for some of the conflicts that I was dealing with, gathering case notes and connecting victims. And so, yeah, conflict resolution has always been really important to me. I think it comes from my family systems as well. As a child, being a smoother over of things and a mediator. And yeah, so this is just a super big part of my heart and my life and what I offer to the world. And I feel like I'm just constantly learning about it. And there's no way to really ever become an expert. And on that note, I'd like to just recognize that many people and communities have come before us in this work. And it's easy when we come up with new nonprofit orgs and new DAOs and new projects to think that we are coming up with new concepts. But in a lot of ways, we are rediscovering concepts that humans who lived more in community in the past were really wise with ahead of us. So lots of indigenous cultures practiced restorative justice of some sort or another. And so I just want to acknowledge that when we speak about restorative justice or any of these like newfangled, new age models of conflict resolution, to know that we're not necessarily inventing this and we're actually borrowing from some really wise cultures. You guys all still following me and you can see the slides here, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just want to make
Yeah.
sure. So here's an example. In the United States, the Navajo tribe, also known as Dene, have a traditional form of conflict resolution called peacemaking. And I'll just read a little portion of this quote, not the whole thing. But in Navajo tradition, a person who claims to be injured or wronged by another would make a demand upon the perpetrator to put things right, going directly to them. The demand was referred to as Lowie, which means compensation, as well as a request to make the relationship right. And if the person was unable to approach the wrongdoer himself or herself, it was common for a relative to do so. If these informal methods failed, the victim or victim's relative would approach a respected community leader, referred to as Nat Ani or Peacemaker, to assist with the problem. So just honoring that in many ways these traditions come from far before our time, and I just have a lot of gratitude to the people who practice this and sharpen these tools before the Industrial Revolution allowed us to forget indigenous ways of life and then rediscover them and think that we're, inventing something really sexy and new. So there was a little bit of pre-learning homework sort of that I sent out. And I'm not sure who all in here read and absorbed those resources. So I just wanted to touch on them briefly. This one, for the people, the accountability document, this is from a really interesting activist group in Seattle, Washington. And they're a group of organizers, a lot of climate justice organizers, a lot of people of color and other exploited identities who are the organizers leading here and doing direct actions. And it was super important to them to create an accountability document that they all agreed to in creating this organization. I'm just going to read a couple of their oops. So one of their points is, if we do not call out our own corruption and dishonesty, we cannot call out the corruption and dishonesty of the system in power. So to me, that means we're in a revolutionary space, right? Everyone in this room in Graviton, I think we can all recognize we are in a revolutionary space. And if we have any chance at revolving the systems outside of us, we have to do that within too. So to me, this is about bringing that decentralization within our own organizations and committing to dethroning centralized power, even in our smallest internal groups. Also wanted to read this one. A call out is a gift, not a punishment, because it allows the person who has made a mistake the opportunity to learn and improve their understanding of behavior. A call out culture is one of the things that they actually explicitly agree to support in For the People. And I think that's really interesting because in a lot of our cases, especially people who are inclined to be peacemakers, they don't want to make public call outs, and they maybe want to go towards call-ins, right, where it's, you're just addressing someone on a private level. But this group actually really recognizes that call-out culture is an important part of their conflict resolution process, and it's a tool that they agree is appropriate to use. And I think part of why it's so valuable...
Sorry for cutting you. Is that people is trying to join, but they cannot join if we have cameras. So it would be good to remove the camera so that more people can join the room.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, as long as I can just share my screen, then we're good. So to me, these call outs, when you do them in the open, or when you have your conflict resolution process in the open, that means you can celebrate the learning. You can really, everyone can gain the learning from it. And celebrating failure is test and prod. And that is crypto culture, right? So if we take this like experimentation of like open source spirit that we all have, where we're like, we're just gonna forge ahead, we know we're gonna mess up, and it's gonna be visible when we mess up, right? This is the values even in how code is written and deployed and recalled in open source, and specifically in the crypto space. It's all out there for everyone to see, and it creates this culture of celebrating failure, which we all learn a lot more from. And this next one is a video. It's an interview from Dominic Barter, who some people say he like invented restorative justice or like coined the term restorative justice. He probably wouldn't say that about himself. He has also the perspective of being a lifelong learner, and he calls himself a student of conflict. But he has made waves in this community through his experience devising conflict resolution models for the favelas that he's lived in Brazil. So I'm actually just gonna show this video here. I think it should be all loaded up.
So how is it restored this process for you? The thing that is restored is always connection within people, between people, and as communities. Because the thing that is most ongoingly damaged has been connection. Lots of other painful things may have happened or may happen as a consequence of that diminished or broken connection within people, between people, and in communities. But in my way of reading why this works as it does, it's connection that has been diminished or broken first. And therefore it is connection that we seek to restore first. And just as all the stuff that we don't like is a consequence of that diminished or broken connection within, between people and as communities, so the good stuff that we're creating the conditions for re-emerging is a consequence of connection within people, between people, and as communities. So since my reading is that everything that we find that we're able to track, observe, record, register comes in part from this connection, I want to start with connection. So to the extent to which that word restore or restorative is a process, and all kinds of people have questioned whether it's the most accurate word to use. I'm looking to restore connection within and between people and as communities. And then I'm looking for all the ways in which that manifests in new acts, which now symbolize connection just as the old acts symbolized disconnection.
I love this last thing that he said, and I wanna call this out again. He says, I'm looking to restore connection within and between people and as communities. And then I'm looking for all the ways in which that manifests in new acts, which symbolize connection, just as the old acts symbolize disconnection. I love this because it's a bit of a rabbit hole for me. But I have this theory that in decentralized spaces, where before there was at the top of any hierarchical pyramid or process, wherever there was a person at the top, we need to replace them with a process and have a process at the top. But processes don't have personality usually, at least not as much as a person does right off the bat. So I'm super interested in how we allow our processes to have persona and to be friendly. I think it comes in through ritual elements and through a community, really a dedicated community kind of upholding the process. I think we've seen it in the TEC with the praise. That's a great example to me of a process that has personality, right? Like there's no person that is the praise person who's like dishing out all the praise or administrating the process or anything. But still, the praise process itself has this total jovial persona, which is amazing. And I commend you guys as a community for being able to like find personality within a process. So I think that Dominic Barter is really right when he says we can look at old acts, old ways of conflict resolution, whatever, that symbolize disconnection. And then we look for the new ones that actually symbolize connection. And is there something in the persona of this process that we're using that makes it connective? I love that. So I think that some of these Graviton sessions are much more like teaching a lesson or just a solid presentation. I want this one to be a workshop. So just to share with you guys, I want lots of participation from y'all. And now that I've spieled a little bit to you, that's kind of when this participatory period begins. So I would love to start with a check-in. And this is sort of my selfish, like double use of the check-in. I want to know what you've learned so far in Graviton because I need to be caught up. Unfortunately, I have another like meeting at this hour every week that I can't miss except for today. So I haven't gotten to go to any of the other Graviton sessions. So I would love if everybody in the room, I know there might be a lot here. I actually have no idea how many participants we have. It seems doable if we're pretty snappy and quick about it. Could you guys just say your name and what you've learned in Gravity so far in the Graviton training? Maybe I will call on someone to start. Do I see Ashley in here?
Yes, it is. It's been a while since I've seen you. It's great to see you, and I'm glad that you're here. My name is Ashley. I'm just I'll try to make it quick. I'm doing pretty good today. It's been kind of a busy day, and like my brain has been in a lot of places, but it's nice to like actually talk and check in. So yeah, and what I've learned so far in Gravity, I guess the biggest thing that I've taken away from this is, and you kind of touched on it in one of your slides as well, is that these conflicts that are coming up in our communities are actually like gifts and ways that we can evolve and connect with one another more and get to kind of like probe these situations so that we can learn from them rather than just dissolving conflict right away, like actually using it as a tool to make our communities better. I don't know if better is the right word, but more cohesive, I guess. And I will pass it to Tam.
Hey, I'll also keep it quick. Hey everyone. What I've learned is that there's so much interest in nonviolent communication and managing conflicts, and there's a lot of really passionate people in the TEC, and it's amazing to see everyone here week after week after week. And I'll pass to Jean.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, I've learned specifically that that rhetoric is obviously critical, but to reassess our perceptions of our own rhetoric regularly and try to understand its origins and what it implies about ourselves and our word choice and the way that we select what we're going to say, and how that conveys more about us than we perceive or believe regularly. I'll pass it to Aloysius.
Thank you, Tim. Aloysius, I use they, them pronouns. Man, my heart's racing. I'm having an anxiety attack right now. It's not a bad thing. It's like I'm autistic. And I got really excited about what I was hearing. What I was hearing about people and how there used to be people and hierarchy and structures, and now there needs to be a process, just got my heart racing because I feel like I cry myself to sleep at night, like knowing that's the thing that we need. And then hearing that thing about it needs to be personal, like I know the answer is like documenting workflows and processes, because like I know that that's how I made organizations work in the government, and I just don't see it happening here, and it helps with continuity. And all I want is collaboration and mentorship to be part of like the process in DAO spaces. And like that's the piece that I'm hearing in the fun and the documentation is like mentorship and like fun ways of documenting your processes instead of making them like boring and streamlined. But yeah, that's my check-in. I'm kind of like all over the place thinking about those topics. Pass it to Magwalk.
Yeah. I am also a little bit scattered today and very happy to be here. I think the nugget that really is sticking with me the most from the Graviton training is conflict being a gift and conflict being a really good thing and a crucial part of community, and really reorienting towards that way of looking at things. And I think that's all with me for now. I will pass it to Lauren.
Oh, cool. Nice. What I learned in Gravity, well, I like everybody's check-ins. They're kind of like really broad concept things. I was thinking of something very specific that I learned that I thought was really cool, was this Maslow's hierarchy of needs thing, and how like job dissatisfaction is associated with like your basic needs, like your safety needs not being met, and then job satisfaction is based on like your growth needs being able to be met. I think that's really interesting and cool, and like all the conflicts that come up are kind of, that I observe coming up, are often like really simple things, just like, oh, unclear work agreements or like compensation related. And then, but yeah, it's like when everybody's feeling like supported and uplifted forward, that's like where the satisfaction comes from. I'll pass to Meta Verde. Oh, Meta Verde, are you there? If not, I'll pass to Miss Brittany. More organic movement. Yeah.
What's up? My name is Morgan. I use they, them pronouns. I think what I'm learning is just this is the first time that I've been in DAO space, and I'm learning through relationships with you all, and the collective invitation to lean into conflict as like a regenerative process. And I'm so grateful for all of the creative frameworks that allow us to like develop based off of that understanding. And I will pass it to, let's see, Miss Maggie or Miss Maggie?
I think Miss Maggie posted that she can't update with audio, so it might need to do another human.
Gracias. Okay. Reforest.
Hi there, this is Forrest. I've been very passionate about communication and conflict resolution for a long time, and I think this has really shown me how much interest and passion there is in bringing this to, this industry, decentralized spaces, and also like larger organizations. It's really uplifting to see. Let's see. I will pass it to Innovator 3.
Thank you, Trilly. I'm very interested in the group sessions. Observe, feel, need and request in VC method. I actually used it. In Twitter as it happened. So I want to thank the team, the Graviton and the whole TEC community. And I'm going to
Sorry, Innovator. I don't know if it was just me, but I couldn't hear you very well.
I didn't. Also.
So.
Do you want to repeat?
I think there's a problem with your audio, Innovator. It does, yeah. It seems pretty robot-y every. You're all good. Thank you, though. And maybe Juan, could you maybe go and pass it to someone else?
Yeah. I what I learned from this is that you always continue learning, and it's not like a skill that you got once and like you have it for the rest of your life, but it's something like it's a living practice of every day being on top of the crazy horse that is in your mind. And I'll pass to Lynn.
Hi, thank you. What I've learned, I think the fact that in those new kinds of organizations, and that in those new organizations, you can actually bring yourself as a person. So not only your skills or not only what you're capable of doing, but you can bring yourself, and not only just the way it is, but also within a learning mindset. By going into the relationship with other people, by meeting other people, you learn and you open up that space that is your identity. You open it up to other people, and you go into this process together. And I love that. Just the way you are, and then in a learning mindset. I'm bringing that and being welcomed for that. I really like it. And I pass it on to, let's see, Tam.
I think Tam already went, but we can pass it to Suga.
Suga.
Nice to meet you, Suga. Nice to see you again. Or Stefano?
I wrote in the chat, and I hope you can hear me. I'm just like close to a bar because here I'm having Wi-Fi to basically listening. So I'm in Lisbon, and for me, the largest learnings I've had so far is really the actual realization of why certain conflicts arise, just the reasons why behind it, and I like had a chance to understand things that happen in the DAOs I'm part of. Better from a why and abstract it from the actual person and really just taking a step back and understanding that, again, conflict can be used to also drive change and really, that's for me what came out most. And I hope it's not too loud in the background.
I can take it next.
first, it was a really good surprise to see Dominic. I met him in Rio. It was the first nonviolent communication speech I went in my life. I was quite young and I never knew his name. And then you showed now, and then I could see it like, oh, it's this guy. And he said something that was so impactful to me. That was violence is born from the choices we didn't know we could make. And that, I think it's such a simple and profound phrase that resonates so much with me very often. And something I think we've been learning a lot in Gravity is how this is a meeting space for like us to see that we have much more in common that we could imagine, and also for being an entry point to the DAO space, which is really beautiful. And also, I think conflict transformation is just everything we need. I'm based in Brazil, and now it's almost every day that there are protests outside of the building, and it's just like we're getting to a point where we really, really, really need solutions. So I appreciate all of you being in this room right now. And I'll pass to Mafé. Let's try Humberto.
Humberto, me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. The thing that I've been learning is the methodologies and like the different approaches, and also specifically about rebuilding trust within DAOs. I think that is very, very nice, as I see it as a constant and common thing within all these digital communities, and also like obviously in any type of community, but within this digital space, it is really nice to have like some steps to guide, but not to follow as like put on a stone, but to have as inspiration, then adapt them, and then us as these constant learning gravitons be ready to adapt them. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, Nick, have you gone?
I have not. I'm having a lot of troubles with my stream right now. But I was just going to say that there's been so many things that I've been absorbing from this Graviton course that I've really appreciated the presenters and the different perspectives from a few of the conversations we've had. I think the biggest thing I'm taking away is that there are organizations like this, that there are organizations of people that are attempting to build these kinds of accountability processes and restoration processes together, decentralized, without one single person running the show. And I love that. I'm excited to learn more. I don't know who else to pass it to. I'm so sorry that I've been having such Wi-Fi trouble. If someone could help me figure out who's next.
I'll jump in. So so much has stuck with me. I think a big thing is the NVC, join the book club, and also last week's talk. It's just really incredible having a huge paradigm shift about how we relate to each other, and then also how we interpret those relations. And I've been mulling a lot over that, and it really has been powerful, not just in the DAO space, but also in so many other aspects of life. And I don't know who else to call on next.
We've had
Thomas?
a healthy round of check-ins. Yeah, okay, Thomas, cool. And I'll say, like, if people don't want to check in too, that's okay. I think after you, Thomas, I'll just ask if there's anyone else that's like feeling really called to say something. So go ahead, Thomas.
Hey, Jaguar here. I think that's what stuck with me from this Redstone training. It's more like how we must train the ability to listen to people, no matter if we are in opposite sides and conflict, but especially if you want to be mediating a space, both for DAOs space or conventional spaces. I think that's an ability that we must try to improve and always stimulate people to train and adapt. I don't know who else is missing from the check-in. Yes, it's thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you. Yeah, so the thing that I've really learned so far from Gravity is that how much of a need conflict resolution it has within all communities and as individuals. Being prepared to mitigate conflict and not just be, reactive towards conflict, but to be anticipatory and learn how to look at conflict from different lenses, whether it be from nonviolent communication or from kind of a, Cynefin framework, or just kind of having more empathy in terms of dealing with people within decentralized organizations is very, very valuable and something that I think we take for granted in our traditional systems. And so being able to look at it and come together as a group and kind of have this, positive feedback loop on the knowledge that we're all sharing around this issue is really important, and something that I didn't realize until I saw how many people showed up to these Graviton trainings, and it's very exciting. So I will pass it to, I'll say next person jump up.
Yeah, and if no one else wants to, that's fine. I'm not sure how many people we have in here versus how many have gone, but yeah, I'll just give a minute now. Is there anyone else who would like to still?
Yeah, I can share. My name is Lux, and I use they, them pronouns. Aloysius invited me into this training, and this is only the second week I've come, so definitely still getting to understand what this space is. But I really I watched one of the videos that was posted in the chat by the same person that you shared the video of, and I love what they said about wanting to create rooms for conflict, creating literal spaces that are designated in the way that we have a bedroom designated for rest, because we anticipate that's a need we're going to have, creating rooms and processes and agreements around conflict, because we know it's something that we're going to encounter and not something to avoid. So I thought that was a cool learning from today, and it's great to be here. Thank you.
Hi, I can jump in really quick. I just want to say that I feel that what I've been learning most is that it's not just about how we feel, how I feel personally, but it's also about how the other gets the impression what I've been saying. And it's the community, it's important. So we want to be heard, but we also need to listen, and also be careful about how we say it. And we're learning that on the book that we're reading, and I had other things to say too, but I feel contemplated for everyone that I read before me.
Great. And on that, I think for timing, I'm going to move us past this this check-in, but there's going to be like lots of other opportunity for you guys to speak out as well. So let me just go back to presenting here. Okay, so oops. Thank you so much for catching me up on these things. It's very cool. So I want to just talk really briefly about the theory of restorative justice. It's a practice, a methodology that believes that dispute resolution can be fully decentralized. And what that means is there is no external party that is the decider of anyone's fate. So to me, like, for sure, a judge is centralized, right? But even a mediator is a point of centralization, someone that you are talking through rather than just talking to your, the person you're in conflict with. That is a point of centralization. So in restorative justice, there are only facilitators. There are no judges, there are no mediators, there's no sentencing committee, there's no sentencing guidelines. Sentences are called action plans, and they are completely created by the folks closest to it. Also, I think the most important question that we use in a restorative justice circle is, how are you now in relation to the conflict that happened? And this is where we stay in the present moment. And I think that this really is underpinned by the belief that conflict is a gift mostly to our present and to our future. It's the opportunity to make things better in the future rather than dwelling on something in the past. So yeah, restorative justice, it dwells in the present moment in that way. And I'm just gonna like rapid fire some questions at you guys, and I'd love to hear your quick answers, just to get a temperature check here. So who do you think in a group knows the most about how a conflict should be resolved? In any organization or community, which roles or which archetypes or which people in that community know the most about how a conflict should be resolved?
I want to say the oldest people. I'll give the elder of these some credit.
Okay. Any other?
I would say also a mix between subject matter experts in the area of the conflict and also people specialized or trained in conflict management.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in restorative justice, we pretty much believe exclusively that the folks involved closely in this crime or this conflict know the most about how it should be resolved. So in many cultures that use restorative justice, they also have like a high respect for elders, and those folks usually have a seat at the table. They are considered a stakeholder in the conflict, but they're not really the ones who know how to resolve. The only people that know how to resolve a conflict are the people in the conflict. And that's what we believe in restorative justice. What about how are people most likely to follow an action plan or a sentencing? Like, in what way would you be able to form such a sentencing or a plan that you think would be the most success for people following it?
I think the people that are involved in the conflict then create the action plan and then can execute it because they're motivated because
Ding, ding, ding. Exactly. Yeah. So this is a strong belief of restorative justice and probably some other conflict resolution models that you guys have studied. during this training. We own what we have created, right? We feel a lot more accountability and ownership if we've had a hand in it. Why is it important to resolve conflicts?
Grow, improve.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
There was something you said about the call out culture. How, like, what are the elements that need to be present for a call out culture to not become a canceling culture?
That's a great question, a big one. I think primarily the agreement around call out culture is really helpful. You know, to know that everybody who's participating in that community has already agreed that this is one of our methods that we will tap on. I think strong relationships between one another, and a real environment where your neighbor's success impacts your success, right? So this is where we are talking about aligning incentives. So if your colleague or fellow in your community, if their success is directly tied in with your own, then you won't have a motivation to just like blatantly call them out in a way to like tyrannically like exclude them from the community. I don't know, Olivia, do you have any other answers to your own question?
Yeah, I think that I resonate with what you said of creating agreements mostly and having like a trust fabric that things will be resolved. Because I think maybe like canceling culture also comes from trauma of like not wanting to be in the same space or to continue to be involved with someone that has caused someone else pain or things like that. But then if there is the trust that that issue is being supported and that there will be a resolution that will feel good for all parts, then yeah.
That gave me two other ideas actually. It just makes me think how like psychological, emotional care for all people really would help in that scenario, right? Like to have a baseline in our society where like everyone is able to access and afford therapy, counseling, coaching, and maybe spiritual support as well, right? Like to have that as a baseline of your needs being taken care of allows you to handle call outs better in a way where you don't feel like you want to run away out of the. And the other thing that brought up for me was just to focus on, in like giveth in our roles, if we would call it roles, not souls. But this general principle that you're never labeling a person when you are giving them negative feedback. It's never saying like, you are this way, like you are, an offender, you're a problem causer. It's about focusing on the specific act, or the specific pattern of acts that's happening, and not assigning that as a persona of the person in front of you. And that's something that restorative justice adheres to pretty strongly. It kind of refuses to use the words victim and offender. Generally, we speak of stakeholders in a crime, stakeholders in a conflict, and most, if we really need some distinction, we will say like a person who was harmed and a person who caused harm, because then we know that those people are really just people, and their relation to the conflict is just certain actions they took. It's not an identity that they have. So coming back to why is it to resolve conflicts? That was a question, by the way. For us in restorative justice, we look at it as a way to cure the illness that led to that conflict, and knowing that the conflict is really only a symptom. And I know that you Gravitons already get this because so many of you reflected that in your check-in, that you're like, I already learned that, this principle that conflict is, and it's an opportunity to like go and heal the conditions that led to such a conflict if possible. So I'd love to brainstorm with you guys now. I know you're a few weeks into your training here, and I'd love to get some ideas of different types of conflict resolution that you've heard of.
Nonviolent communication and shadow work.
Okay.
Deep democracy.
Deep democracy? Or
yeah,
deep
democracy. Deep.
Okay.
Deep, yeah. Deep democracy. It's a method, also methodology to resolve conflict.
Cool.
I used to do something at this intentional community I was part of called Talk and Release, where it wasn't totally resolving things, everyone just sort of expressed themselves, but then a lot of the times things got resolved as a result of that.
Also
role playing
and therapy.
It again?
Role play and therapy, like psychological.
Yeah.
Brewing.
Cool. I'm gonna make some room for I didn't hear that last one.
Crewing. CREWING. Crewing.
Brewing. Okay.
Polarity mapping.
Polarity mapping. Whoa. So I'll go ahead and throw up here peacemaking goals. They're kind of similar to restorative justice. And what about normal criminal justice?
Yeah.
That's one.
Litigation. And also alternative dispute resolution.
To say that, and at the decentralized dispute resolution, like Lexa and stuff like
Decentralized dispute resolution?
that. Yeah, please.
Cool. You guys are so full of ideas. I had a list over stimulate, but I should have known you wouldn't need it.
Celeste.
Celeste. Okay. Is that spelled like the name Celeste?
Yeah.
Yes.
Any other ideas?
Spiral dynamics. And law is a system to have conflict resolution. Yeah, law.
Cool. What about like parents solving kids' conflicts, right? There's no name for this really, but all of us have experienced it if we have siblings.
Also like advice process or like peer-to-peer. Sometimes we just need someone to talk to.
Great. This an awesome list. Okay, so is there a last bullet point there? I'll leave room for it for a second.
Negotiations.
What negotiations?
Negotiations in general as a way to resolve conflict.
Right. Yeah, and that makes me think that mediation should be on there too, right? Cool.
What about game theory? Or just, I know it's quite broad and most of these things involve game theory, but just basically incentive or reward and punishment.
Okay. Right, so that's almost like an automated conflict resolution, right? I think of that as more of a conflict discouragement rather than a resolution, but it's definitely a tool. Okay, great. This is such a big list. I'm so being firm with you guys. I love conflict resolution so much, and it's very rare that I get to be with this many conflict resolution nerds. Wow. Okay, so I was wanting to send you guys into breakout groups, and I'll ask right now, does anyone know if there's a possibility for breakout groups in Discord calls?
We can divide into all the working groups, so all the other voice channels. I don't think there is a call right now.
Okay, and would it be easy to call people back together after that?
Yeah, there should
Not
be
really.
just someone jumping in between the working groups to tell like, hey, let's gather again.
Great. Cool. So maybe Livia and Wanda, you two and I can like tag team that. So I'd love to send you guys into breakout rooms for, let's see, maybe 10 minutes? Yeah, 10 minutes.
I have another appointment now, unfortunately, but I'll pass the stick to Aloysius. Maybe you can take it?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm sure we'll figure out how to bring to the room, especially you guys all know 10 minutes rejoin the Gravity Talk channel. So the questions for these breakout groups, how many are there? How many like work stream channels can we go into? Let's see. One, can you tell me how many there are?
Yeah, there are right now 22 people.
I mean, how many rooms are there to go into?
We have,
I think there's like 9 or 10. Yeah.
9 or 10? Okay, cool. That's great. So I just want to have you guys, can you still see my slides here?
Yes.
So the questions, okay, cool. So the questions here, just pick one of these conflict resolution methods, methodologies that's listed up here, and answer the questions like, what type of community or what type of conflict would this practice be the best for? And is there a centralized party in this method? And I hope you guys can kind of bring back some short answers on those to report back to the big group. Are there any questions about how to actually get into these breakouts? Actually, one, if you want to just like explain it to me, and then anyone else who was confused about it will know from there.
Yeah, if you scroll, you can see that Durgadas is right now in Omega. So yeah, just like we should have around like 4 people joining him, and maybe I will join on Commons voice channel, and yeah, 5 people joining me, and Aloysius maybe joins in SoftGov and 5 people, and with you if we are 20, I think like 4 groups of five people works.
Okay, I don't actually see where those voice channels are though.
Just scroll down and it says Gravity, Labs, Commons, Stewards. Yeah, Humberto just jumped to Commons and Aloysius and Jean to SoftGov.
Jump in.
Yeah.
If you want to like take a screenshot of the slide or something, just maybe to remember what the types are, because I think you'll lose the slide.
Yeah, I will paste it in the text channel.
Great.
Thank you so much, Lowie. That was great.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, I will paste the screen of Lowie's activity in the Gravity so that we can follow it.
Are we just picking one from this list and then talk about like which situation it'd be best for?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Hey, Juan, quick question.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Thanks. Juan, a quick question. Is there anybody from Metagame that have already graduated from Graviton? From Gravity?
No, right now we have a lot of people participating, but we have not like the first graduated Graviton still.
Ah, okay.
Okay. So which one will we choose?
I'm just taking a look at the slide right now.
Yeah. I would say litigation, like traditional justice system. Do you think that would be a good choice, traditional justice system, or should we choose another one?
I'm okay with that if you guys are.
Okay, so
That's it.
I will take some notes, and on which cases it's good to use a litigation traditional justice system. And I would say that when there is no goodwill from the parts to reach from a negotiated solution.
And also when there are clear ways to go out of to solve the issue that are already like written down, or that there is like some type of jurisprudence or history on how to solve them.
Yeah, clear ways to solve the issue.
Did you say one like if the individuals aren't familiar with each other, or did you say something along those lines?
Yeah, when there's no goodwill to reach a negotiated solution to foster communication. And clear ways to solve the issue, like previous experience and I would
I almost think it's makes me think of the Knaffen model, right? Like when things are clear, you almost follow that best practices versus, you might want to use a different type of conflict resolution if the parameters are complex or chaotic.
And I think there is a centralized party in this method. Maybe we can choose another one so that we do two, because we already said some things about these traditional litigation justice systems.
I think almost as if like a broader group of like more creative or human based. So like some of the things that I see that might fit into that I'm familiar with are like spiral dynamics or NVC, or shadow work, where it's focused really kind of on the human connection or relations to human needs.
I also think that maybe when there's a need of authority, that would be a case of using this litigation mechanism too. And how about if we discuss a little bit for the negotiation and mediation? I think they work really well when there are goodwill to negotiate, and when there are common interest for a possible beneficial outcome for all parts. I think that fosters negotiation. And I think there's no centralized party in negotiation.
Like if a non-zero sum outcome is possible, that lends itself more to negotiation versus like an arbitration by a centralized party.
Yeah. Now, the question that I was thinking is, then which are the ones that are fully decentralized?
Ooh, I don't know.
Because she said about restorative justice, but actually that's not my strength.
What is the difference between restorative justice and decentralized dispute resolution?
Okay, restorative justice is what she was explaining, where there is no like actual third part, but the system fosters the communication between the two people, but in the centralized dispute resolution, we can have a third part facilitating the communication. And I think of the centralized dispute resolution something as Kleros or Aragon Court, that maybe somehow are similar to the litigation system, but they don't work with states.
So the restoration will be more like a distributive way. There is no middleman.
Yeah. In my experience, I haven't been so much near to restorative justice circles, but what I have seen is that they work really well in small communities where like everyone knows each other, and like the community can promote the process without having someone like delegated to carry that flag.
What will be like, for example, if we have if we all become gravitons and then we all participate in a community. So let's say that all these communities formed by gravitons, then we could take the process forward. That will be more like a restorative. But in this way also you will need like some roles, as you were explaining, I think on the first or second session, for a person not to gain enough power to be always there. Something like that.
Yeah. Like maybe when we all are gravitons, we can practice restorative justice, because there shouldn't maybe in no need of a mediator between the conflictive parts, but that the conflictive parts can talk safely about their conflict within themselves and within the organization.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like evolution. We all need to get this knowledge and experience in order to carry this restorative approach.
Yeah. Like I understand it works really well in small communities and a lot of indigenous communities. Actually, here in Colombia, there's also indigenous communities that have this role that is called the wordman, el palabrero, and he is a person that like proposes to the parties a solution, but it's not like an imposition, but it's like what they consider to be fair is what it's well seen within the group.
Guys, sorry to interrupt. Just Lowie asked me to ask everyone to come back to gravity.
Okay, let's come back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God is still joining us. And originally I thought we could report back on this, but I think for timing, I won't. Maybe if there's a few minutes at the end, we can hear some thoughts on the breakouts. But now, I really want to get to talking about practical implementation. So just briefly, why doesn't centralization work in justice or in conflict resolution? We can see that it doesn't work because of recidivism. Recidivism is a fancy word for people returning to the criminal justice system after they've already been through it. You know, they go to court, they are sentenced to prison time, they go to prison, which is supposedly a correctional facility, which if it was doing any correcting, they probably would never come back there. But we see like massive rates of recidivism, like up to like 80% in some demographics for certain crimes. So we know it's not working. Also, people don't experience healing in court. My restorative justice teacher, wonderful woman named Andrea Grenecke, she shared with me, like, so she was a lawyer, and her turning point was realizing that people came to her looking for peace and for healing, and instead she brought them to war. And that was her job as a lawyer, bringing them into court. So, yeah. And another thing, you know, is there's too much opportunity for like really bad profit models at least in the United States, there's a whole industry around like private justice system companies, and it's not even just jails that are privately run. It reaches into the social work sector. It reaches into weapons manufacturers. Actually, a lot of the companies that own private prisons also own like military weapons manufacturing companies with big contracts with the government, and also own and operate our like social work offices. We've outsourced that to private companies, and then they have an incentive to, really not do what they came there to do, but actually to continue the cycles of poverty and like exploited families.
Can I just mention one thing?
Yeah.
Before centralization occurs, it seems to me that if we centralize our education system, what a community or culture educates is what it becomes. We educate people in this punitive and reward system, and then it's inevitable that we'll end up with centralization out of that, and we'll inevitably end up with a punitive and reward justice system, and then it's so it's kind of a before all of this parts that you're talking about now, it's profit for everybody, if you know what I'm saying. It keeps everybody divided at every layer all the way down the line.
Yeah, that puts an extra spin on the school to prison pipeline, right? But I think we even, like, a lot of us experience it in our families, right? With punitive justice systems and like kids not feeling like they have agency over the decisions around conflict in their lives, and that someone else needs to make a decision for them. So it starts early. That's a great point. I want to talk about practical implementation, because it's really possible for all of y'all to have strong conflict resolution methods in your respective organizations and communities. And I would like to give you something to take away and to take home with you from this session. So there's some steps for setting up a conflict resolution process in your community. The first thing you need to do is select a methodology, right? We looked at there was 20, 25 ideas that you guys all brainstormed there of different ones you know of. There's even more out there on the wide web. And it's, as long as you have some sort of governance process, some sort of decision-making process in your community, then you can propose one of those methods and have everyone agree to it. And that's really important, to agree to the methodology ahead of time. And it can always be changed at a later date. It could be like, hey, we're going to try NVC for 2022. And if we don't like it, then in 2023, we'll choose a different one, But having that agreement is really helpful. The second thing is facilitators. You need to have clear facilitators that everyone knows who they are, and thus how to initiate the conflict resolution process. You also need training for these facilitators. It should be pretty open and available for other folks in the community to become a facilitator of this method. Number 4 is kind of back to that selecting a method, which is getting the team agreement on using that method. 5, you also want to hold up that time spent resolving conflict is valuable time. If you are in a community that works together or that has some sort of financial engagement together, if people are paid for other things they do with their hours, they should definitely be paid for time that they spent resolving conflict, whether that's a conflict that they started or that they're facilitating or what. We gotta make people know that this is valued time. And then the last thing is just celebrating conflict, celebrating it as a learning process, celebrating failure, and having that be an organization-wide culture, the feeling that conflict is good and a great opportunity I like breaking down the word responsibility, right? Because you could say maybe in your org values that if there's a conflict, the participants have a responsibility to resolve it. But it sounds so heavy, right? But if you look at it, it's an ability to respond, right? It's an opportunity. And then going in on kind of a micro of what one of these conflict resolution processes would look like in practice. This justice project, the Kwanlin Dun community, is on a Navajo reservation in Yukon Territory, and it facilitates offenders and victims through a circle sentencing process. And I'm just going to read out to you guys these 7 steps because I think they're really valuable to know. Step 1, the offender is referred by police or peacemakers for diversion or mediation. So in whatever methodology you use in your org, you just want to know who are these referral people, like who has that role? Because you probably don't have police in your community, right? But maybe who are the peacemakers, or who else is able to trigger this process? Maybe it's everybody. And maybe there's certain people who are assigned to looking out for conflict and make those referrals of like, hey, let's start a process. Step 2, an application is made to the Kwanlin Dun Justice Project. The application involves many parties, including an elder, the victim coordinator, probation officer, community members. So this is where you gotta know which types of stakeholders does your conflict methodology include. I think in NVC, a lot of times it's just like one-on-one, and it's about teaching people to communicate, from I statements and to be able to really represent themselves to each other. But like, contrarily, in restorative justice, you do want to have some sort of community elder or leader. You want to have a support person for each of the people who is most directly involved in the conflict. You want to have maybe community members that witnessed it or were affected by it. So it's more of a communal process. Step 3, the Community Justice Committee makes a decision to accept or reject the application. The offender, victim, justice system, and community may provide input to the committee who's deciding. And cases that are rejected end up going to court. So that's an interesting factor of this system, that if people choose not to participate in it for some reason, that it does actually get escalated to the traditional justice system. In this case, it would be tribal court. And then if a case is accepted, the committee makes a decision on when, where, and who to include in the circle sentencing process. So always letting your stakeholders know what to expect, when to show up, well ahead of time, so people can be really prepared for this sensitive session. Step 4, the offender support group and the victim support group prepare for the circle. This may involve meetings and possible mediation between representatives of the groups. Step 5, the circle sentencing hearing takes place. Now in restorative justice, this is often a long meeting, which I think is a good thing to build realistic expectations around when you are, back at this last slide, number 4, getting your team to agree to use that method. You want to say like, hey, I'm pitching this method for us to use, but just so you know, anytime a conflict comes up, we can expect that it'll take, 2 hours out of your life one day and another 5 of coordinating ahead of time. And step 6 here, the sentence is implemented. In restorative justice, we would have a step 6.5 kind of, which is checking in on, like, we would have a post circle where we check in and find out if the sentence has been followed. And then step 7 is that the community pardons the offender, so they get full acceptance back into their community. I think it's really valuable for folks entering this to know what to expect at the end of this, and to know that that reintegration is possible and trust among their community is possible. So that is all that I have for you guys on my presentation here. And I guess like I'd love to just open the floor for questions because I've been kind of talking at you guys a lot. So if there's anything you want to ask me or just final thoughts to share in our 5 minutes here, that'd be great.
I want to say, Lowie, first, thank you for sharing this with us. And also thank you because like 1 year ago, and we had the same conversation, and you gave like these same steps that you numbered here, and those are some of the steps that we are trying to reproduce in Gravity. That's why we are having this training of the facilitators, and we are also working on the cultural side. So like everything like takes shape, and yeah, I really want to thank you because from not an active contribution like every day, but with just one small contribution, it was like a big push for this project and for this community, and it's also for
Hello?
you.
My Discord is not working, I think.
Sorry, Humberto. Yeah, no, that
I can hear
thank
you.
you.
Okay.
Thank you, Lowie, and I will pass the mic.
Thank you so much, Juan. I appreciate those words.
Yeah, it was really, really great. Thank you for that.
Can you please share the slides so that we can continue reviewing them in the Gravity channel?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually never make presentations, so this was one of my first ones that I did, but I'm happy to share it.
And
I also included a link for the people who hadn't heard of polarity mapping before. There's a couple of videos in the link that kind of introduce you to it in case you hadn't.
yeah, and they are all like different mechanisms, but more or less they follow some of the steps that Lowie was mentioning, and that's like a great really summarize of how to build your own conflict management system in your organization. And yeah, the idea of Gravity and of this training is that some of you can also replicate or develop your own conflict management system in your organization, and you can choose if you want to repeat some of the things that we do in Gravity or if you want to choose another method. But more or less, yeah, the steps on what is necessary to build your system. And if no one wants to jump, we can wrap up this call. And yeah, if someone wants to share his or her final thoughts.
Yeah, if anybody wanted to share something they got during their breakout session convo, I'd love to hear that.
Well, it seemed to me that there were a lot that really applied across a lot of communities. So I think based on the screenshot, for me, I thought NVC shadow work, polarity mapping, and spiral dynamics / integral theories were the ones that jumped out at me for being applicable to a really broad amount of conflict resolution situations, but they also do things like transform conflict and so on. So, so that was what we were talking about, I think, in our breakout group.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so we are at the top of the hour here. I will just make one last little plug here. So I recently joined Gitcoin as a people ops lead, and Gitcoin is doing a great job of committing to decentralized practices or leading a great community, decentralized people practices, which definitely includes conflict resolution. So there's a really cool culture going on there right now. Both in the company and the DAO, and we're hiring. There are open jobs in Gitcoin the company and also Gitcoin DAO. So if any of y'all are looking to like move more fully into a Web3 position, you're super welcome to reach out to me, and I'd love to talk to you about it, because I know everybody in here has that awesome like human social intelligence that I would love to see more of and work around. And thank you so much, everyone. This was a great session. Like I said, it's awesome being around conflict resolution nerds. It's a really rare opportunity for me. So well done. And yeah, have a great rest of your Graviton training.
Thank you, Lowie, and thanks everyone.
Thanks, Lowie.
Very much.
Thank you very much, Lowie.
Have a good evening.
Have a good
Bye.
evening. See you later.
Thank you.